The Eagles got to play the game totally on their terms, their comfort level, whatever. The Eagles didn't have to change anything the whole game. Even things I told you about last week that I was worried about that I thought the Eagles might have to change or they'll lose the game, right? Mike, you heard me say a million times, if the Eagles play too much zone, the Chiefs will carve it up. Well, the Eagles didn't listen to Chris because they were like, no, we can play zone and still stop Mahomes. It doesn't matter. I mean, when you start to look at the stat lines of the game, when you start to say things like, wait, the guy that was under pressure all game is the most magical escape artist we've ever seen, and they never blitzed him the whole game and just got there with 4 people, and it felt like it was a blitz, and the avalanche was just coming down on the Mahomes every play. This is one of the best teams we've seen in the salary cap free agency era with that offensive line, defensive line, and then the star skill players to go with it, and they put it on display yesterday.
Well, as I was thinking about the outcome last night, I was asking myself, what did you miss? What were you not thinking of? And we were reminded last night of, and it happens once every 5 years or so, when you can get heat on the quarterback without help, when you can generate it from your front four, like the Panthers, Broncos in Super Bowl 50, when Denver's pass rush just overwhelmed Cam Newton. In 55, when Patrick Mahomes was running for his life the whole game in the 31-9 loss.
Brady versus the Giants in Super Bowl 42.
Exactly.
Right? Yep.
Exactly. And to a certain extent in 46, but worse in 42. But when you couple that with the fact, and this is what I wish I would have thought of last week, as you're grasping for any reason to try to help break the tie, and you know how close it was for both of us to come to a decision. Neither of us had strong conviction in the belief as to who would win the game. But one of the things teams have learned over the years is if you blitz Mahomes, he's going to make you pay. He's going to find the mismatch before you can get to him. So if you can devote your resources, your 7 guys behind the pass rush, to covering the receivers and get pressure on him and shorten that time that he has to do something, that's the trigger. That's the key. And we saw it 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And we've seen that when you blitz him, he makes you pay. So just don't blitz him. Use those guys up front. Use those guys who can generate the pressure. Josh Sweat should have been the MVP. Somebody from the defense should have been the MVP. I'm not trying to take anything away from Jalen Hurts. There was just nobody from the defense who stood out enough to overcome
it was such
the
a great
default
unit. Yeah,
quarterback is the MVP.
You're right.
I would have loved to have given it to all of them. What was the year that there were co-MVPs? Was that Super Bowl
5?
12? Football historian Harvey Martin and Randy White, were they co-MVPs in Super Bowl 12? Or was it 20? No, it was just Richard Dent in 20, wasn't it? But there was one where there were co-MVPs, 2 defensive players.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I'd say give it to all. Give it to the whole. Give it to Vic Fangio for crying out loud.
The defense was the star of the show. I don't disagree with you there. You're right. It missed one guy. If one guy could have maybe had 4 sacks instead of it being spread out the way it was, to your point. But that was the star of the show. I mean, come on. What are we talking about here? I mean, of course, this is Mahomes. This is one of the greatest quarterbacks we've ever seen in the history of football. This is Kansas City. We've seen them overcome so many obstacles and make magical moments. That's why I think they're one of the hardest teams to evaluate too, because you saw what I saw. You knew how good the Eagles are, but the Chiefs have just found this way to stay in games and somehow pull them out. And it was a whole year of like, hey, we executed and we won situational football, and that's how we were really good. We might have got a little lucky with the schedule here and there, whatever, but we out-executed and out-situational football at everybody, but we never dominated anybody. And they met their kryptonite in this one. A team that was well-coached and then, of course, had a talent level that Mahomes had no chance. It didn't matter to what you're saying. They had nothing. Look at those replays we just showed. Who's getting out of that? Nobody. So they were outmanned. And you look at the stats, again, you said it. They were BS as far as the passing stats at the end of the football game. And then, of course, you look at what they did in the run game. Mahomes is the leading rusher for 4 for 25. Nothing says we get to the quarterback with 4 all game. You can't run the ball. You can't even look down the field to find people open or develop the play. Nothing says more of an ass kicking than that type of stuff that we saw there yesterday.
And when you consider one important stat, because there was so much talk about Saquon Barkley and how he can end it in a play. And you have to have a plan for him, and you have to contain him. And, you know, the thought of even keeping him under 100 yards was inconceivable going into this game. 25 carries, 57 yards, 2.3 yards per carry with a long run of 10. If you had just told me that one stat before the game.
Yeah,
25 for 57.
Right.
Oh, the Chiefs win. You give me that stat, and I'm betting the house. I'm betting everything on the Chiefs to win. 25 for 57 with a 2.3 yard per carry average and a long run of 10. Chiefs are winning.
I hear you.
Chiefs might have blown them out.
Or you're
just
hearing,
based on that stat.
or it goes to like what we discussed a little last week. If that was the stat line for Saquon Barkley, we thought Jalen Hurts would have to throw for 350, right? 325. It would have to be that type of day. But I think what we underestimated is that the Eagles were just actually in a whole nother class than the Chiefs. It didn't actually matter. They could do whatever they wanted the whole game, all game long. And like we said, I don't think anybody is going to be fooled by going, oh, wow, we saw some, astronomical, amazing offensive performance by the Eagles last night. No, we saw them execute. We saw them make some plays, certainly. But I wasn't like, wow, this attack or whatever. It was more about what the Eagles defense did. And again, like we were talking about, stopping the best quarterback in the history of football. Maybe the best tight end in the history of football is non-existent. And then, as we talked about with the Chiefs all year, who scares you? So we saw Xavier Worthy, but that was it. There's nobody else. There was nobody else to worry about. And, yeah, I think, that kind of sums it all up, Mike, because you're right. Saquon didn't have a great day. Jalen Hurts' stats aren't eye-popping, but when your defense plays the way it does and gets a few interceptions and 1 pick six, it doesn't matter with some of those stat lines that we thought might determine the football game.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.